Hey, it's Unplugged Unmuted. I am back with another episode, believe it or not. No, this week we have David Rucki from Sentinels. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But the killer drummer, absolute machine live. I mean, I got to see them in the middle of August back in my hometown. But they kill it, man. They didn't have their vocalist for that concert I went to. But just even instrumental Sentinels, dude, that was freaking sick. And it was kind of nice to not have vocals at this venue. I don't know. It was not that I prefer Sentinels without vocals, but every other band, there was like 4 bands there that night, and the rest of them all had their vocalists. So it was just kind of nice to get like just a little instrumental break. And no, they freaking smacked it out of the park, and it was actually Dave's birthday at the concert that he played in my hometown. So that was cool, getting to meet him, and I got my guitar signed. Yeah, where's this at? Right here. Yeah. There we go. These 3 were the 3 or 4. Yeah, I can't tell you who's who here, but yeah, this is all from that concert. But no, yeah, I really appreciate having Dave on. We talk about all kinds of stuff, all kinds of music. This one is more of a music-based podcast rather than, sometimes I get off track. I start talking about whatever. But I really hope you guys like this episode. And before we dive into this, I'm going to show you a little bit of their song, Embers. And that's probably my favorite one, honestly. And thanks, Dave, for being on. It was awesome, man. I hope to have you on in the future. Enjoy this episode. Thank you. Yesterday I shot I did a 2-hour podcast with Isaac Soldier Gary from The World Is Quiet Here. He also does like riffified videos on Instagram, and nice. So like little viral videos. He's like, oh, I'm gonna write a guitar thing over this because everything has rhythm. So that's just like a little fun thing he does. Then I had Logan.
See the dude with the glasses?
Yep, the glasses and the Strandberg guitar.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, he's freaking awesome at what he does. I had Logan Young too yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what's up?
Yeah, I'm just hitting all the big guys and the kind of like Big and Thal or whatever, kind of like genty stuff.
Nice, yeah. So going on,
Yeah, when did you start playing drums?
I started playing when I was 3, from what my family tells me. Yeah, so I didn't really, that's just when I started getting on the drums. But by age 5, I still couldn't reach the kick drum, so that was the only thing. So I was basically playing full songs, but without the kick drum.
Yeah.
By 5 years old, so that was pretty nuts to think about.
Have you seen that Avery drummer on YouTube? That little kid. That I think he was 3. He was basically at daycare playing freaking Wipeout on the drums.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen him, but I've seen a lot of drummers who are extremely young. This one kid went crazy viral because he was at one of the booths at the NAMM convention a couple years ago, and he was playing with a band. Just hopped on, was playing a song with the band, and the bass player actually had to stop because he started crying because the kid was just so gifted, and he was only 3 years old.
Wow!
And I think he was on Ellen and a bunch of other shit. I was like, oh my god, that's wild.
So you're a drummer too. So what do you think? How do you think his brain works in that sense? Do you think it's just a talent, or do you think back when he was super little, months old, he just started tapping on stuff? And I don't know. I don't really know. It's how do you get that young, early set on talent?
I think I don't know. I mean, not every drummer who starts young starts in a musically inclined family, but I know like that kid particularly, I'm pretty sure his dad is a musician as well. So was his mom. And my grandfather, he was a drummer, and he's the one who taught me, and so was his son, my uncle. So they really were musically inclined. My grandpa was playing in tons of like wedding bands and like that did like a massive amount of covers of like old classic rock stuff. And I just kind of naturally would gravitate towards his drum set since my parents and I lived with them for like the first 2 years of my life. So there was always a drum set around, so I would just naturally go over and hit it. And then my grandpa one day was just kind of like, I'm telling you, he's going to be a drummer one day. And, you know, sure enough, that's how it all kind of worked out. So I think if it wasn't for him and my uncle, then I don't know how I would have found music that naturally. I don't know if I ever would have.
It sounds like the exact opposite of Step Brothers.
Yeah.
Don't touch my drum set.
Yeah. He fully encouraged it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome though. So it's like I had parents too that, you know, but they just played in like a college band. Like my mom played the clarinet, my dad played saxophone, and my dad was a little bit more advanced and he liked playing like jazz and blues and stuff. So, but they never like really introduced me to music. But I'll tell you what did, it was Guitar Hero. And I was like obsessed with that game. And then I went to go see Motley Crue on their final tour, and just seeing Mick Mars, even though, you know, he has the ankylosing spondylitis thing where it like fuses the bones in his back, he's still hunched over just freaking ripping some riffs, man. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. So then I picked up guitar. Man. Yeah.
That's sick. Yeah, I know a lot of people who were, you know, introduced to music or got started with music through Rock Band or Guitar Hero. So it's always wild to hear those stories, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So I took my video game love to Rocksmith, and that's actually what like kind of like taught me how to play guitar. But
that's sick.
Yeah, it's neat. I'm not performing like you are with Sentinels, but you know, I'm a nice bedroom guitarist.
Hey man, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, you know. Honestly, if I wasn't playing in a band, I'd still just be playing at home too. You know, I mean, that's how I started. I was just playing at home until I found, you know, bands to join over time.
Was Sentinels, most people. Was Sentinels your only band, or did you have previous band experience?
No, I joined my first band when I was 13, which, funnily enough, was like just a cover band. And then after some member changes, we thought about, you know, starting to write originals, and so that's how I got into, you know, writing our own songs. And you know, they were very musically gifted members. So, you know, the stuff that we were writing for like 14 to 16-year-olds was I don't know, at least to my ears and like a lot of my family's ears, because it was like classic progressive rock stuff, or inspired stuff, I should say. Like they all thought it was like pretty impressive for like our age to be playing stuff like that. It definitely didn't fit in with anything else in the local music scene, but we just played shows regardless. And then after that ended, because that lasted about 5 years. And then once everyone went off to college, it just kind of disbanded, and everyone, you know, put their efforts into, you know, college and whatnot. Then I took some time off and started a YouTube channel, which I didn't think it was really that successful, but in the grand scheme of things, it clearly reached more people than I ever thought, because I still meet people at shows who are like, "Hey, you're Dave, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Yeah, I used to watch your YouTube videos all the time." And I'm like, "Holy shit." Like, because I look back on those videos and I like cringe a lot. I was like 18, 19 years old, like just trying to cover anything that I wanted personally to try to help me find a metal band, because during my whole time in that rock band, I just wanted to metal things up. And you know, they weren't always into it. So, you know, I found like a metal band not too long after that, I guess, like maybe a year or two into that, and then played with them for about 3 years, I'd say. And then I got the offer to fill in for Sentinels, and then sure enough, like right after that, they asked me to join, and I did, only because, you know, I saw that there was like something of potential there. Yeah. And, you know, I was glad to know that like I wasn't fully wrong there, because, you know, things, you know, kind of took off for us like a couple of years in. So it felt good to know that, you know, I made the right choice for myself.
Yeah. So speaking of Sentinels, the new record, I bought, I think, your guys' record, then the Chosen, and then Doppelganger was supposed to open up for you guys, but then they sadly lost their drummer like a week or two before the show, so then they had to back out, and then Empty Graves filled their spot. But no, so I got some like Doppelganger merch. I've had both members of Doppelganger on the podcast, and their bassist is going to be his bassist is actually a social worker for like helping with like kids who have like learning disabilities and stuff. So we had like a 3-hour podcast, but it was like actually really fun, just kind of like discovering, because like you see these people on stage and it's like, you know, not every band unfortunately can just pay the bills by playing music or doing stuff on social media, and it's very rare for that to happen. As like I'm discovering, it's like even with like Logan Young and Eye of the Breather, it's like, you know, he's doing his masters right now and doing marketing and all that. So it's just like, at what level in the music industry do you have to really be to say this is my main job?
Well, I'll say from our perspective, you know, we as a band just got paid for our second time ever after a tour. And
really?
Yeah, and like it was like more than we had anticipated, you know, but at the same time it still wasn't like enough to cover what you know, to cover our bills and stuff. It was just nice to be like, oh wow, we finally were able to make like something off of this, and you know, and that's only happened to us 2 times, and we've been touring pretty extensively since like 2018 or in 2019. So now it's just showing that like our band is reaching a point where this can be, you know, something that can put money in our pockets, but not as a full-time thing just yet, you know. And I don't really anticipate it being like that, at least for a little bit. Not to sound negative or anything, just trying to,
of course.
I guess like more from like a realistic standpoint, but we all work jobs. Some my guitar player, to my knowledge, has like 2 jobs, you know, like going back and forth between, you know, he works at a studio now and also, you know, works as a server in a restaurant. So, I mean, his main goal is to not be working 2 jobs. Right. But, you know, that's what we have to do. You know, I've been working the same job for like 11 years, and I basically am able to tour with that. So, you know, it helps me actually be able to go on tour, you know.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. It just makes me wonder, because like like I said, I got your guys' album at the last show, and honestly, the very first intro, like the intro to the first track, just that rumbling bass, I am like, this is fucking sweet, dude. Like, this is something, and then it just kicks into some nasty riffs, drums, vocals, everything, and that was tight. That's a really tight intro to have. And
thank you, man. Yeah,
the whole mix on the album. I honestly, with metal, I am super picky with mixes, and that it's just preference. You know, it's like I like a nice fine mix. Like I love Daft Punk for just how his music is mixed and produced and everything. But then like going over to metal, it's like a lot of like the guitars and bass and drums, from what I find, some of it can be muddy, but that might just be the Bluetooth receiver in my vehicle or whatever. I mean, I got studio monitors too. But there's so many different factors that go into audio quality. But when I find a CD that has just a really nice mix, like your guys' latest album, you know, it's like I really like taking the time to, you know, I'll reach out to them like, hey, you guys, this album was a really nice piece of art by you guys, and that's absolutely in the case for you guys as well.
Nice. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It definitely was you know, a process, but I'm glad, very very happy with the mix we got from this thing, because I knew when we signed with SharpTone, we kind of had to go a little bit bigger, you know, and this is like kind of the production that we like and music that we listen to in heavy music. So, you know, we really wanted to have a mix that nobody could really complain too much about, and you know, it fit into the market that we're trying to be a part of. So I'm glad, because overall the response to the mix and everything has been, you know, fairly positive, and I'm happy with it. It definitely is. I couldn't really imagine it mixed a different way.
Yeah, no, and that's good as like an artist too, because like I was talking to Logan and Isaac yesterday about this, and it's like you could have like a music project or just any project, and as a creator, you're always like, I just don't like this one little thing, but it's like to the average listener, it's like, well, what if that listener likes it, and whatever you want to change is like, oh, well, now, you know, it's like you can't make everyone happy, but it's also kind of like important to set deadlines for yourself so you're not like just working on it indefinitely.
Yeah, because when you do that, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot, or you'll lose traction with your band if things take too long because of perfectionism and whatnot. Like our album process definitely took way longer than it should have, but that was mainly because we had a member change like right before we started recording, and then also COVID had just hit the States when I was going in to start tracking drums. So it was very serious like deadlines or very serious guidelines. We could not we couldn't go to the studio unless we were coming directly from home, like nowhere in between, because everyone was just like in a panic about like how this thing worked. So I really just I had to like tell my boss, who I had arranged like special hours for that time of the studio time, to where I could like only work 6 hours a day instead of my regular 8. And then I leave early to go spend as much time as I can of the day in the studio. So there was a lot of that going on, but then I just had to call my boss and be like, "Hey, so as far as I'm concerned, we still have a deadline for when we're supposed to be done tracking this album, and now I can't go to the studio if I'm coming to work. So would you be okay with me like not coming in until the drums are done, and then I'll come back in?" And he was like, "Yeah, I mean, I guess." He's like, "I guess you got to do what you got to do and just keep in touch." And then sure enough, I finished tracking drums like a day or two early. And then I go back to the office and I notice that nobody is there. Like everyone has gone fully remote. Like it looked like the scene in Walking Dead, like when Rick wakes up from the coma and he's just like, "What the hell is going on?" Like,
it's like, hey, now.
It looked like apocalypse. Like there's just still papers on the floor. Like people were scattering, trying to get the hell out of there to work from home.
Yeah.
So it was pretty nuts. But I think that the extra time that we took on the record definitely, helped make it what it is and helped make it sound the way it does.
Yeah.
We really were able to kind of take our time, because album deadline was like lifted essentially. They went from like the 30-day thing to being like, all right, well, whenever you find your new vocalist, and then whenever it gets done being mixed, and then it went from being supposed to just be done in 30 days tracking wise to nearly 5-6 months. It was insane.
Yeah.
But it definitely helped make it sound the way it did, and I'm forever going to be proud of this thing.
Oh yeah, no. Another thing I like about the having the CD is just like the tiny little papers and stuff inside. So it's like you guys have your big thank you thing, and they're like everyone. It's like everyone has like a little novel by their name, being like, I want to shout out this person or whatever. And I skimmed over yours. I can't. It was like right after the show, but I was like, oh, this is neat. It's because not everyone does that. It's like you don't get to see that on Spotify or YouTube or stuff like. So it's like, I personally buy the CDs because like I know this is more than streaming the song or a song from you guys 1,000 times over. Because it's like I don't know the exact Spotify to views or plays, however you want to call it, to pay out. It's like I don't exactly know, because it's like I'm on Spotify just for like podcasting, but it's like I'm getting not what you guys are getting for listen. So it's like, it's totally different. It's
very different, yeah. But I mean, the stream payouts are less than nothing. It's wild. So I like try to just not think about that, because I'm just like, I know I'll probably never see anything from this for a while, especially from streaming. So like, and I fully relate on the buying CDs part, because I love that behind the scenes thing that you do not get from streaming, where you can essentially get like the thank you section. You can get the lyrics like printed out how they were, like you get all that inside art. So there's something still very special, and something that I really appreciate about like CDs, because they don't go through that trouble for nothing for people to not buy it or check it out. So I'm glad people like you still exist and buy that format.
I picked up Enterprisers. I've seen Signs of the Swarm twice this year. I actually had Bobby Crow on too.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's the boy.
Yeah, their new song Unbridled is tight. That's with their Century Media label. That's, I think, is that their first song through them?
Yeah, that's their first release through Century Media. It's
nice.
it was like a pretty brand new signing. But yeah, I'm glad they finally got to announce that, and got to, I guess, level up like in terms of like their backing. Yeah, so they Yeah, they're killing it, and they deserve it, man. They're a
Yeah.
phenomenal band, and they work very very hard. They've been on tour nonstop this past year plus.
Yeah. My favorite thing is I like listening to music on Spotify. I listen to music almost all day. And my favorite thing is when I go and see a concert is when the band is miraculously, or maybe that's an improper term for it, but they're better on stage than they are rather than just like sitting in a car. And maybe that's just because of the environment a venue brings, and it's so much louder than you can possibly imagine. And you have everyone just so hyped up around you. But it's like, I love, like, seeing Signs of the Swarm live. Jeff just has the nastiest riffs and breakdowns. David has just the most disgusting growls I've heard in a long time. And Bobby's just shredding up the drum set, man.
Yeah, that band is full of members who bring their A game all the time. We toured with them back in 2019 for their headliner when David had just joined. It was basically like a totally different lineup than it is now, but I think this version of Signs of the Swarm is the tightest they've ever been, and this was the lineup that we toured with them back in the fall when we did that Born of Osiris tour. It was nice. Born of Osiris, Shadow of Intent, Signs of the Swarm, and us, and it was definitely wild. I was like, thank fucking God we're opening, because I could never imagine following
yeah.
And not that we could play after Signs, because they're so much bigger than we are, and like, you know, but no, like still, even just looking at it, and what's
monthly listeners you guys have on? I'd say you guys are almost similar, aren't you? Well, I'll pull it up right now. I'll give you exact numbers right at this second.
Yeah, it's gonna crush me, but
it's not.
We're not that close. Yeah, they've released
26,000 to Signs. Oh, I thought they blew up this year.
Yeah, I mean they've steadily been releasing music like pretty often, so yeah, so that definitely helps with it. So we released our album like almost a year ago, so that was like the height of it. It grew. I think our peak was like 71,000, and then right after that, it kind of slowly like every day just went down by like 500 to 1,000. I was like, Jesus Christ, people got sick of us fast. But I know it's all about, like, with the monthly listeners thing, it is really about how often you're releasing music. And, you know, we had spent so much time making this record that we didn't really have any plans to do like singles like soon after, because the touring was getting so busy for us. And, you know, that was a priority for us. So, you know, now the plan right now is to just try to write some new stuff and hopefully get either some singles out sometime soon, like by early next year, just to kind of keep the ball rolling, and then, you know, go in for another album.
Yeah. So a lot of the bands I've been talking to recently is like their music creation process, like from when they start like recording and writing to when it releases, is like a really long time. Like that was the case with like Logan. That was the case with my first episode, Saints Can Lie, they're metalcore from Dallas, Texas. But like 2 years, like minimum. So like when like
in between albums,
in between like writing and release.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it really, because a lot of, like, especially for us, is like after we finish recording an album, if Chris, my guitar player, has an idea, he'll go right to his computer and start, you know, recording new material and new ideas, just so that we have it all like in a Dropbox folder for like future material. So I know, like, even while Collapse was, you know, done being mixed and whatnot, Chris was already like back at home writing new songs for whatever's next, you know. So
yeah.
And yeah, usually like a tour cycle off an album is about a year and a half to 2 years, depending on how successful it is. If it doesn't go over too well, then you just go back in the studio, keep releasing more.
Yeah. So do you have any endorsements from drumming?
I have a deal with this company called Los Cabos Drumsticks. They're a smaller company, but they just have a stick for me that outlasts everything else that I've used in the past. On the Born of Osiris tour back in the fall, you know, I was touring with Cam from Born of Osiris and Bryce from Shadow of Intent, and I was using like Vic Firth sticks. And, you know, nothing against Vic Firth. I know they're a great company and they make great sticks, But I was breaking like 2 pairs of sticks per show, and like, yeah, I hit fairly hard, but I don't like always hit like caveman hard, you
Right.
know. I try to play hard enough to where, it's a if I can hit hard, I'm gonna hit hard there. And I
Yeah.
was snapping sticks constantly, and then Cam and Bryce, they endorsed Los Cabos, and I asked about the sticks that they were using, and Bryce had mentioned to me that they had this series of sticks called like the red hickory instead of like regular white hickory, where it's cut from the center of the tree, so it's cut
Okay.
from the core, so it's a
Yeah,
lot
so that's gonna
more
be the
dense and
strongest
sturdy.
part. Yeah.
Yeah, so I he put me in contact with the company, and I was going back and forth with my artist rep over there, and he offered to send me like 5 different pairs of sticks just to see like what felt right for me. And sure enough, that red hickory rock stick was just the best, and I've been using it ever since. I order way more sticks than I need for a tour, but I'm like, you know what? I'll order at least a pair per show, which usually is like 24 pairs, and then
Right.
I don't even get through 12 pairs through a tour. So it's like they
Yeah.
really do last me long, and that's what I look for. I don't just reach out for endorsements just to be like, hey, I endorse this company. Like, I think that's like a
Right.
really like ignorant way of doing it, and
Right.
because endorsements are more so a partnership and a relationship than it is just like give me cheap stuff.
Right.
It's very much like a personal bond, and then also it's what can I do for them as much as they can do for me. So they were really nice guys. They were very quick with their shipping on stuff. They always answer me very promptly if I'm in need of something. And we stay in touch, and they were great, so that worked out. And then a couple of years before that, I started endorsing a kick trigger company called Foot Blaster, where instead of your regular mounted on the bass drum, it picks up off of vibration. These go on the bottom of your kick pedals, and it only triggers when it's hit. So
Okay.
like there's less room for error and like extra hits that come out of the PA, because triggers are a pretty complicated thing. A lot of people just think it's, oh, you use triggers and it's easy, you can do it all, but it's like, no, there's a lot of mechanics to it that a lot of people don't know. And I'm not the biggest audio or tech nerd ever, so sometimes the simpler the better for me, and those have been holding up well for me for years.
No, that's good. So, are there any companies that you'd like to have an endorsement with beyond what you have with? I forgot the company, but the Red Hickory sticks.
Yeah, Los Cabos
Los
and
Cabos.
Foot Blaster. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I the ideal, you know, uh, endorsement thing I get, or the ideal companies that I would, proudly endorse like over anybody, would be Tama drums and Meinl cymbals. My setup, other than one small like bell, is all Meinl cymbals, and it's really all I've ever wanted to use. I've experimented with other companies in the past, just to make sure that, like I saw what was really out there, and Meinl has just always been what feels like home to me. I never have a problem finding any type of cymbal, and there's a huge array of things to choose from, and they all sound good to me. They're like, obviously, just like any other company, there's things that I don't like as much or I wouldn't use, but the amount of stuff they do have that I would use is phenomenal. And not only that, like I don't endorse the company yet, because I don't think that a drummer of my size and my following qualifies for it. It's a very difficult thing to get into. But even their customer service is fantastic. Which, if any drummers here are listening, I'm going to let you in on a little secret that Guitar Centers and everyone won't tell you, is when you buy a brand new cymbal, especially from the big four companies, Meinl, Zildjian, Sabian, and Paiste. I don't know about Paiste for sure, because I've never used them. But if you buy a brand new cymbal from a music store and you keep that receipt, if that cymbal cracks within 2 years, there's already a 2-year warranty on it. You don't need pro coverage from Guitar Center. You don't need all this extra insurance on stuff. If you just call their customer service line, let them know you have a cymbal under warranty that's broken, they'll replace it for you for free. All you need to do is pay to ship it out, and that's it. So many drummers I know are like, "Oh, I don't want to buy that China or that something because it's," which I understand. Like,
Right.
It's expensive stuff. It all adds up. But they're like, I can't afford that cymbal, but I don't want to because it breaks so fast. I'm like, well, guess what? You can replace it as many times as you need in 2 years. Just keep that receipt. Make a copy of it. You put it in the box. You call them up. They give you a code. You write that code on the box, ship it out, and then in 3 to 4 weeks, you have a brand new cymbal.
That's sweet because it's like exactly what you're saying. I like that you bring that up because it reminds me. It's like it's like if you go buy a new guitar, it's like you don't need, you don't always have to buy the pro coverage or for guitar headphones maybe or like any keyboards possibly or what you're saying specifically the cymbals, and because they try and push their warranty programs pretty freaking hard.
Oh yeah, they did it to me when I was using Sabian cymbals for a short period of time. I was on tour and I had a brand new crash that I had maybe played on once before, right? And the first 2 hits of the song, that crash literally broke. Although, like, I couldn't believe it. It was insane, and it was a very pricey cymbal. I knew it was one that I couldn't find at Guitar Centers, so I had to replace it because it was so badly cracked that it wasn't making any noise. It wasn't projecting. So I had to go to a Guitar Center on the second day of tour. I had to find a crash that was, about the same size or that would kind of do the same job. And I asked about the pro coverage and what it would do because I was in a pinch. I was on tour, day 1 of like a 30-day tour. And they told me what the pro coverage would do and that all I had to do was bring in that crash and bring in my receipt and show them like proof of purchase, and then I could just leave with another one. That is not at all what happened because I broke that cymbal another 10 days later because we also had to shoot music videos on our off days on tour. So I'm playing songs like 15, 20 times, and I have to put energy into the performance for a music video, and the cymbal cracked again, so I brought it back and told them I had the pro coverage, and they were like, yeah, it doesn't work like that, man. I was like, great, so I have to pay full price for a whole new cymbal again. So I was throwing money away on tour, on cymbals, essentially, on brand new ones because they misled me on the information. So fuck Guitar Center pro coverage. I'm not about it, and I will not encourage anyone to do it. Just stick with that regular 2-year warranty. You don't have to pay a cent over what the cymbal cost you when first buying it, other than shipping.
Other than shipping, but it's like that's
like pennies compared to a full new cymbal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I totally get what you mean. That makes me wonder. It's like I wonder because I have about like right here. This is a Gibson Les Paul tribute, and I wonder if that has like a warranty under because it's like it's totally legit and everything. Came with the case, came with the picture that was in the manufacturing lab, wherever that was, and all the specs and signed by a manager and everything. That was what I thought was really neat about Gibson, that they put all that little stuff in there. Like literally right after the guitar's done being manufactured, they throw it on a workbench, take a picture of it, and put it in the bag.
That's so sick.
Yeah.
I never knew that. Yeah. I don't know if it all works the same with guitars as it does cymbals. I don't even think it works the same with drums. But cymbals alone, that's what I can speak on. That's something I learned about, and I have loved it ever since. And the reason I brought that up is because Meinl has always been so good about that whenever I've called to replace something. And if they didn't have the cymbal I broke in stock, they would recommend me other things in that price range that I can get in replacement of that, just so I had another cymbal to play on and didn't have to wait months or however long. And they're always super good about answering questions, and they're never disrespectful on the phone, or they're never talking down to you like, oh, you probably broke it because you played all hard and stupid or something. Like some other companies will do. They're smaller companies, and these are the biggest companies in the world, and they treat everybody like family, which is something I love personally, and that's something that I would want out of a company I was endorsing. So that's why Meinl is number one for me, always and forever.
Yeah. Speaking of customer service, I guess for me, Sweetwater has the best customer service. Like, I bought like this little hum thing because it's like back at the old place I was staying at. I don't know what was going on with the house electricity. It just didn't sound grounded right because like my guitar was buzzing like hell. Like I almost even want to play guitar plugged in anymore just because like whatever. But eventually it didn't. The thing didn't even work. But I moved places and everything's fine now. So it had to have been the electricity at the old house. But they called me like a year later. I'm like, who's calling me? It's like, hey, this is Billy from Sweetwater. I got you bought the thing last year. I was elected to be your sales representative. Just checking in on you. How you doing? How's guitar going? Do you need anything? And with that's the best. I know it. And then with the Sweetwater packages, they're like, everyone likes candy, so they just like throw a little bit in there.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like they really take care of people. And shout out to my rep, Kurt Martin, you're the man. He's helped me out with a lot of stuff, and he even especially when it comes to touring and stuff like that, he's helped me out like when it's come to having to order multiple things at once, and always with the free shipping. They're incredible, man. I love Sweetwater. Ever since I found out about them, I've specifically just ordered from them. I haven't used anything else in years and kind of refused to.
Yeah. So I remember seeing like an article in like 2018 that Guitar Center was like in debt like $50 million, and
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't be either. But it's like for me, Guitar Center is like they could like stab me in the back and I'd still like kind of like trust them just because like that's just the first music store I ever got a guitar from. So it's just kind of like it's like having parents you don't get along with that great, but it's like you still have to check in on them, and be like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it is for me.
Yeah, I mean, like my first ever Guitar Center trip when I was like 15 was like walking into Candyland. You're just overwhelmed, and that was back when they really carried like mostly good stuff, and they carried almost everything. But now it's just kind of like, it's gone down over the years. But when I was a kid, man, Guitar Center was the place.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like, I don't know, the one I have back at home is like, they just don't have like a lot of like great options. Like, I don't know. I like playing metal, even though like half the stuff I personally makes like ambient or like kind of like lo-fi stuff. But I still like playing like Beartooth riffs or, it's like I would like to play stuff like Sentinels. It's just, I hear Theory and I'm like, zombie apocalypse, I'm out. It's like Theory's like my worst nightmare. Because it's like,
we don't know Theory either. So if it makes you feel any better,
really, and you're writing that technical as shit. Oh my god,
Chris just writes just random whatever comes to his head type shit. And when people ask him like, dude, how do you come up with this shit? He literally says, weed. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, not even kidding. Like that's his thing.
What's wild is I'm not even gonna try. I'm just gonna do a whistle to impersonate it, but that or my Discord. But it's like, cat calling on the guitar. That little guitar riff he slipped in there. It's like, that's unique.
Oh, like the dissonant slide stuff or whatever? Or?
Yeah. To me, it reminds me of cat calling, just the notes he's sliding across. Or at least the pattern of it. I don't know if you can. Yeah. I'm just like, that's cool, man. Yeah. I couldn't tell you the track.
He's always busting stuff out that I surprises me.
Yeah. But I love.
Is it like the like that?
Yeah.
I think that Embers. I think that's probably what you're thinking of.
Probably. I know it's on the newest album. I just can't. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm terrible with song names unless I'm like. Yeah,
it sounds the closest to like what a whistle would be like.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like a slide essentially.
Yeah. No, I totally love that little thing because it's like, it's like that might be cool, like a little ad lib thing for like an alternate part of the riff, but knowing that that's the main part of that's what stuck out to me, and that's neat. You can turn something kind of dorky into something that actually sounds kind of sick.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just whatever comes to his brain, he puts on that computer.
Yeah. No, your guys' minds, just like now knowing you don't even know Theory, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, who knows?
Everyone's different, Everyone has like, different inspirations, or they hear something in their head and it's just got to come out a certain way. So
yeah,
I think that's just what makes everyone, different. Is like we all hear things a different way, or we all interpret songs different. Like if you watched us live, you would probably have you'd probably get a kick out of just how we're all feeling out the song, because like you know during a part, like Danny could just be like, and then Chris is over there like, and then me, I'm just like, we all feel it differently. So that's one thing that definitely makes us a little, I guess, weird, is the fact that we all feel our stuff differently.
Yeah, no, I remember though, I reached out to you like right after that show you guys played at Skylark, and I wanted to, because you were there too, and I thought it was so funny how Enterprise Earth's new album kind of looks like stained glass in like a church, and Skylark used to be an old church that got turned into a music venue. So I thought that was very ironic that they scored a concert there. But no, it was super awesome. And speaking of that concert, was a fun show. Speaking of that concert, does this ring a bell to you?
Oh yeah, I think we all signed that one. Yeah, that was mine. I think I can see it.
Yeah,
that's sick,
dude. It was such a cool idea, and I'm trying to go see Monuments actually on Friday. So,
oh, dude, definitely, they're a great live band, man.
Have you seen them?
Oh yeah, seen them before. My old band, we opened live for them.
Really?
And Sentinels opened for them. Yeah, on that same tour, that we. Like just as local openers and stuff like that.
That's tight.
Yeah, they're a great band, great people. So yeah, I think you'll enjoy yourself.
The only thing I miss is their old vocalist before Andy was on, and Ollie Steele. That was those two guys just for me that was Monuments for me. But I still really like John Brown as a rhythm guitarist. Yeah, he calls himself a rhythm guitarist. I'm like, you are way more lead than I ever could be.
He does it all, man. John Brown is incredible. He's got one of the best like picking hands I've ever seen. Yeah, and he's just such a tight guitar player. Excellent, excellent guitar player overall. And yeah, Chris Barretto, the old vocalist, he was very solid. And when he first joined that band, I was like, yes, like this is the band for Chris. But I guess things just went a different way. I don't know. Yeah. But Andy Sizik is
he's a monster.
Vocalist. Yeah, that dude can really do it all. So I think that band is still in good hands.
It is. Yeah, to me, it's just a different sound. And for me, Chris, their old vocalist, was for me just what I liked in Monuments. Because to me, I don't really like listen to lyrics at all. Like lyrics to me mean absolutely nothing unless I'm reading them as I'm listening to the song. So vocal is just another layer of music to my ears. And I just personally liked Chris's screams just better. But I know, all respect to Andy, there is a song he did, I can't remember who with, but it's called Gouge, and his screams on there are pretty tight. So it's like, it's just, in my head, I like to envision different people are better in different projects, although they could still be like one of the best of all time. I would say, Andy right now, I would say is probably top 10 vocalists that are known in metal.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. Yeah, he's a phenomenal singer. He's got incredible scream range. Yeah, he really is a great frontman and great vocalist.
Yeah. How cool would it be if I got them to all sign that guitar though, and your name would be right there with them? That'd be something. Tight. Yeah. So with the last tour, what would you say your favorite show was?
Man, there were a handful of good shows. But I'd say probably one that like always sticks out to me is one that surprised me was probably Kent, Ohio. That one was really good for us because I had never played in Kent, never heard of Kent, Ohio, and they just went nuts, and it was definitely one of our best merch nights. Like the crowd was incredible, and they showed us a ton of love, and I fully appreciate that. So.
Yeah, no, you gotta appreciate a good crowd. But speaking of shows, I took two buddies there with me that night, and one was like older 30-year-old retired recon Marine, and he's like, Sentinels, they fucking throw down. So he wanted me. Yeah, I told him after, like, it was like, when was that? That was a Wednesday. I told him a Thursday morning. I think I reached out to him like, hey, you want to do a podcast? And you're like, yeah, we'll figure it out in the future. And here we are. And I appreciate you doing it, by the way. But he was like, you have to let me know when that episode drops because he really liked you guys live, and he went to go to a gas station, get some cash because he wanted to buy some merch from you guys, but then Enterprise Earth was up, and he already has like really bad hearing, and they like really made that concert like super loud. He didn't have like earplugs or anything at the time. He's like, I just got to get out of here. He felt bad, but it is what it is.
It is all good, man. No problem at all. And I understand how that can be. Sometimes, like by the end of the night, it takes a lot out of you. Sometimes you just gotta head out. I get it.
Yeah. Well, we both had work at like 7 or 8 in the morning the next day, so it's like, how much do you want to be drained? It's like he's older 30, so it's like he ain't no spring chicken anymore.
I feel you, buddy.
Yeah. But no, that Skylark, I'm happy to hear you had a good birthday there, or at least Yeah,
that was a great show too, man. That was a very, very sick show. I love when like I guess a smaller room like that can be packed and be very intimate with the band. So like it was overall great show. I had a lot of fun at that one.
Yeah, I really like the smaller shows. Like I got to see Beartooth this year, but it was kind of like a bigger venue, and it's like I didn't go talk to Caleb as much as I would love to in Fanboy. I've been like a top 0.1% listener for like the last 3 years of Beartooth. I know it's like not like super technical, like like Sentinels or like other bands, but it's just those nice punchy breakdowns that I'm like, that's nice, that's tight.
For sure,
yeah.
And definitely no need to like compare like technicality and stuff like that. Like I don't listen to any bands for technicality, and if anything, I want to try like in the future to make us be able to groove a little bit simpler, to make things not as difficult for people to listen to all the time. Not saying I want to completely take that aspect out of our music. Like I think we'll always be like a fairly technical or technically driven band, but yeah, I mean, I never look for bands where I'm like, it's not technical enough. That was never a thought set for me. So, or never a mindset for me. And I feel like people, when they do that, or when they like kind of close things off because it's too simple or too technical or something like that, I'm like, you should just like listen to it and take it in for what it is, not so much like write it off or only like it for technicality. I think that's kind of silly, but I mean, everyone's different. You can't really explain that to most people.
Yeah, and maybe we have different point of views is because you are a technical player versus me. It's like, I wish I could play technical, so it's like, it's more of me looking up and be like, wow, you're so much cooler or whatever. It's because you are able to do stuff like that. It's just a different point of view. It's like, maybe if I were able to shred like Eddie Van Halen or do some crazy stuff like Tosin or Jimi Hendrix or Tim Henson, to name a couple crazy guitarists, maybe I wouldn't look up to them like guys and be like, oh, that's just too technical for my liking. I'll go listen to, some like Beartooth or other simple riffs.
For sure, yeah, and dude, there's a lot of fun in simpler playing. I love, like when I'm home, I'm not really trying to play stuff that's like super technical. I like stuff that's a little bit more laid back, or could be a little choppy, but not technical.
Right.
Because there's a lot of fun in just playing stuff that's like pretty open pocket, like Deftones or stuff like that. There's a lot of fun in just like straight grooves.
Yeah. So speaking of like what you listen to, kind of like playing, what was like the first bands that kind of inspired you?
Man, I guess first bands that like inspired me as a player. I mean, I had like my gateway band into heavy music really was POD. They were a big one with their album Satellite, because I was raised in a pretty conservative Christian home when I was a kid, and when I would bring home records like Slipknot and Lamb of God, my parents were terrified, and they just did not want me listening to stuff like that, like vulgarity and all that shit. But my mom was like always subscribed to like these Christian bookstore newsletter things or whatever, and she saw an album in there by a band called POD, and read about it, that it was like heavier music but with like a Christian message or something. So she bought me that record, and honestly that album is amazing, and I didn't really realize how big POD was and how they were dipped into like mainstream like MTV and Fuse and everything. They were a lot bigger than I ever thought, and honestly that album still is one of my favorites to this day. I can go back to it and enjoy it anytime. So that record was a big one for me, and that was like one of my first like approved metal albums to have in my house. But after that, it was, Slipknot, Lamb of God, Killswitch Engage. Those were like my starting bands, or Under Oath as well. They were like literally the first screaming like record I ever owned when I was 11.
Wow.
And I love Under Oath to this day. Still one of my favorite bands of all time. I think that they were super special and they did something super unique back in the day. And they really still are a great band and one of my favorite bands to see live. Like they're absolutely phenomenal.
And they still tour?
Oh yeah, Under Oath. I saw them a couple months ago, and they had Spirit Box, Bad Omens, and Stray from the Path opening for them. So it was a really good tour.
You should wait till you guys hit like 50K monthly on Spotify, then reach out like, hey, if you guys are looking for support bands on your next tour, think of Sentinels.
Yeah, if it worked like that, then absolutely. But
I'm not in the industry, so I have no idea how, setting up tickets and everything, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot more different than that. It's more so, they kind of, it has to do a lot with management and booking agencies and stuff like that. So, and then they also want to bring out bands that are, bigger and, bands that, people will come out of their way to go see. Like that's why Spirit Box was on there, because they've been a massive success in the past year or two, and they knew for damn sure that they would bring people out, and they did. It was a sold out show. So
have you ever seen a show that an opener had a bigger mosh pit than the headliner?
Plenty. Yeah. I can't think off the top of my head, but I've seen a lot of shows where, the support bands had like where they should have been headlining.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's happened a lot. Definitely don't want to name names on that because it can be kind of like, but yeah, there's been multiple times where I've seen the headliner not get half the response that one of the opening bands got.
Yeah. No, I'll name names because I still think either way the headlining band was awesome, and this is all just based on my experience. It's not that I didn't enjoy the concert any less than like a supporting band, whatever. But I went to go see. I've seen a lot of concerts this year. I'll just name them off. Fit for an Autopsy with their whole thing, and like earlier the year they're at Iowa City. Then also in January, I the Breather came through, and then Beartooth in March. Lorna Shore in May, and then Enterprise Earth with you guys in August.
Yeah. It's quite a busy show schedule.
Yeah, I just say you live it once, might as well as live it good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I like seeing people do what they want to do on stage, and that's honestly a reason why I kind of started this podcast. Because I like being like, hey, go look at this person. They're doing something I think is cool, and it's like all developing an audience. Be like, oh, maybe. Eventually, I want to actually help people, like with their viewers and listeners, whatever. Because it's like right now, it's like obviously I have to develop a platform first before I am more able to help like people only with like 20, 30,000 monthly listeners to be like, hey, here's like an extra 10,000 for the next couple months, or at least it's like. And I love talking to people, so it's like I'm not trying to be like a Joe Rogan copy, but it's like. I kind of am, you know what I mean? But
I feel that, man.
Yeah. But no, I do. I'm losing my train of thought. It's terrible. But no, do you listen to any podcasts at all, personally?
I do, yeah. My favorite podcast ever is Your Mom's House podcast, which is Tom Segura and Christina Pease. Yeah. That was kind of my introduction. One. Yeah, that was my introduction to podcasts, and I never realized like how many people tune in and listen to podcasts, and that was like maybe like 4 years ago or a little bit more that I started listening to their podcast. After that, it was Craig Reynolds' podcast, The Downbeat. That's a really good one. Get Tucked, which is Tuck from Fit for a King.
Yeah,
his podcast. Yeah, there's quite a few out there. Two Bears, One Cave as well. Yeah, because I love comedy as much as I love music. So
me too.
Like it's literally just music or comedy podcast for me, and that's it. I don't really listen to much else.
Yeah, I'm kind of like strictly comedy, unless it's like Joe Rogan and he has someone I think that's super cool. I'm like, I really like the Elon Musk ones and other like scientists and stuff. So I like learning too, and that's why I have like people like drummers on, so I get to learn. It's like you were talking about drum triggers. I'm like, I have no idea what that is. But I'm like trying to like absorb as much information like a little freaking sponge over here. When like people are like, I mean, it's like because I don't know how booking tours goes. I don't know how it goes to say and set up be like a support band. And actually, I regained that train of thought I lost. But no, speaking of like the support bands, but the Eye of the Breather, they had Curses, Execution Day, Sleepwaker, and then whatever local bands in there, like 2 local bands they opened up with. But Sleepwaker had a fairly significant bigger mosh pit than Eye of the Breather. But Eye of the Breather hasn't really done stuff in recent history, so it's not they're a bad band. It's just they haven't been producing newer music. It was a 10-year anniversary tour for their like last 2 albums. But Sleepwaker was such a killer show, dude. I don't know if you listened to them.
They're a great band.
Yeah.
I've listened to a few songs before, and they're a great band. Yeah. I've talked to a few of those guys online before. I'm pretty sure, yeah. And they seem like they really have it going on right now, which is awesome.
Yeah. Have you heard their song Candlemaker?
I don't recall. I'm not the best with song names all the time.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah. But the pre-breakdown, I really like goofy little intros to breakdowns. Like for this one, their drummer Frankie Mish had a girl from high school that sang in choir sing in kind of like not soprano, but maybe like a little less soprano. Is it tenor, alto? I don't know. Anyways, not like super high pitch, but fairly high pitch. You could definitely tell it's a girl voice singing "This Little Light of Mine, I'm Gonna Let It Shine." And then after a measure or 2 of that, Jason Caudill, the lead guitarist, comes in with some lo-fi binary and drop G. And then 2 measures after that, then it breaks down into Hunter, their vocalist, just screaming, "I'm not doing fine," and then just gets just disgusting. Nice. Just like that nice high contrast before a breakdown, I love it. It's like, I don't know, just like Skrillex's "Oh my god," then bass drop. You know what I mean? It's just something like super silly just to make it just hit that much harder.
Yeah, heavy samples and whatnot.
Yeah.
I feel that. Yeah, a lot of that comes from like those early days of metalcore and deathcore where they would throw in samples before a breakdown or to the intro to a song. I definitely liked stuff like that for sure.
Yeah. Are you guys trying to do anything like that with Sentinels or?
Yeah, but probably not in a goofy sense. Just like if it fits and it works in the context of the song, then absolutely. We talked about doing it on Collapse, but we just couldn't get it to work right. But who knows what the future holds.
Yeah. And that Empty Graves band, I don't know if you remember them too much, but that was at that Skylark show. They were the first openers before Portals, but they just
they were the band without a drummer that day, right?
I believe, Doppelganger didn't have a drummer, and I don't know if Empty Graves also didn't have a drummer because I thought the show started at 6, and one of my friends got to the show while I was with the other friend I was going to go with. He's like, "Hey, where are you guys?" I'm like, "It's 5:30. I didn't think it started till 6." So
I remember the band Portals played right before us, and there was two local bands. So it was Portals, and then the band before them who didn't have a drummer, and they played with backtrack drums.
Okay, so then that was probably
they had a shit ton of sample use in their set. So that's what I remember. Yeah. But Portals, their drummer was great, and that band's awesome. We've played with them numerous times over the years. Whenever we played, like in the Illinois and Chicago areas,
Yeah, no, I just saw Portal's 9-string guitar and like, holy shit, man. It's like, you usually don't see 9-string guitars ever unless, you're going to go see, Rings of Saturn.
Josh Travis? Rings of Saturn,
That's what I was thinking,
I forgot they kind of use them now, too. I forgot about that.
Yeah, but, no, with that, Empty Graves band, they just put out a song called Witch Hunt, and before their breakdown, it cuts into a studio audio recorded thing, just kind of like on like a little mic like this or something, and he's like, "Hey, wait, what if we do?" He's mouthing the breakdown, and then it cuts into something just You know, they're like, oh, this is Rage Against the Machine, and he's like, yeah, but it's way heavier. Then it cuts into it. I'm like, just a little. So it's goofy, but it fit with the actual metronome of the song, so they kept it in there. It was just take in the studio for them.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're pretty tight, but yeah, I won't go too much into other bands. This is supposed to be more about Sentinels, but do you guys have another album in the works, or are you trying to just work on singles right now?
It's kind of up in the air. We haven't really landed on a decision, but you know, I think it would be good to have like at least like 1 or 2 singles come out before the next album. Just got to try to work it out and get a little bit more material together, and we'll kind of assess it from there because we have quite a lot of ideas. It's just trying to pick out from there what would go better as just 2 standalone singles, and then find something that works as like an album context, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like trying to break it up like that.
Yeah. So in the album kind of process creation, that whole thing, how much would you say gets scrapped, at least for like you guys?
Like gets like trashed or cut out?
Yeah. Like how many ideas get thrown out?
I mean, we only really had 1 song not get used on the last record, like, but because it didn't even make it past the pre-production stage. So, you know, we go in there for pre-production to sit with the producer and listen to all the songs we have and think about how we can make them better, and how he listen to his ideas and how we can make them better, make them flow better or hit harder, whatever it is, you know, and then he helps put the songs together. And the 1 song that was in the list, which was written by our old guitar player, none of us really liked it. It just didn't really have much flow, and it didn't fit in with the rest of the music on the album. So we kind of trashed that, but everything else made it on like all 12 songs.
Nice.
And and so it could go over the same way. Like, I think we want to go in there with more material than we'll need for this next record, just to have, you know, a little bit more to work with, just so we have more to pick from. But it'll probably be the same thing where, you know, we won't really go into pre-production until we have like our set songs that we want to use for the record go in. And then if you think something sucks later on, and we either cut out parts or we toss the whole song and start over, you know?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So when you guys start like kind of creating in like your own little world, like making your own audio files and sending them to each other, like, hey, what can you do off this? How long of a process is that versus when you're like, okay, we have these ideas, let's go to the recording studio and put them, like, actually manifest them?
Well, it really all depends. If the song starts off on a really good note where it doesn't need much touching up, I'll barely have to do anything to it drum wise, because Chris has gotten really good at writing some drum parts. There's still some things that, you know, he's not like the best at, but he puts just a placement there, like a placement groove, just to be like something kind of like this, but obviously you make it more realistic, right, and more of what you would do. And then if something is like wild and off the walls, then it can take me like probably like a couple weeks to like really sit down and go through and figure things out. But even before I'm done like actually sending him anything, I'll like send him a video like of like the computer, and I'll be like, how does this sound like with this cymbal choice or whatever. We'll kind of go back and forth until we find a better solution for it, or you know, we'll work together and merge our ideas pretty much. So yeah, there's no like set amount of time it takes. It's really just until something starts to really click with you, you know?
Yeah, well, that makes sense. But what was it? I just had a question. Oh yeah, so since we're kind of reaching over the hour mark now, I kind of want to like wrap things up, because I know you kind of like said like an hour to 90 minutes. But sure. So I was actually disc golf with a buddy, and he's like, you know how another question you ask these guys is like, what do you do to kind of like just like, you get home from tour and you're like, all right, I'm just kind of like tired, I want to like recoup, relax, kind of rejuvenate myself. So what are you doing in your downtime to kind of like do that?
Honestly, man, I'm kind of vegging out on the couch, or I'm going out and or like I like to get like a good amount of sleep. Like I like to recoup on sleep as much as I can, and then I will pretty much just for like a couple days kind of veg out, relax around the house. And I work from home too, so it's like I'm home already. So like after work, like I'll just kind of veg out on the couch, like watch a show or something, and get like into like a zen, just kind of carefree. And then after a couple days, it's like I want to be back out and socializing and seeing friends or whatever. I don't go to many shows when I'm home. I went to a show just the other day, but it was mainly just to help out. So it was that I Prevail tour that just came through. Like, I'll be honest, nothing against I Prevail or Pierce the Veil or anything. Those are just bands I personally never listened to or never checked out much. But Fit for a King is on that tour, and they were in a pinch with the drum company that they use. They were supposed to be getting a new kit that day, but something got messed up with the shipping, and they needed a drum kit. And Tuck, their bass player, and the one of the clean singers in the band, he reached out to my guitar player Chris, because he was like, New Jersey, where can we get a drum kit? And he was like, Chris, Dave. So he texted Chris, and who texted me and was like, hey, can Fit for a King use your drum kit on Friday and at the show? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And so I just went out there and met up with them, because we toured with their guitar player Daniel, who at the time, like he was playing, he still is in Phineas, but Phineas is just kind of like taking a break now.
Right.
So he joined Fit for a King in recent years. And so like I got to hang out and see him again. Phineas's bass player was like a stage tech and guitar tech, I think, for Fit for a King. So I got to see him and their drummer Trey, who also is in Invent Animate. And so it was really just like hey, I'm helping my friends out thing, and then also getting to see friends I haven't seen in a while. And it actually was a good time. So that was like my first like real time like getting out and doing something and socializing since being home from tour, because usually it's like I need a good amount of time to reset and whatnot. But yeah, and then so I'm starting to get back into normal life where I'm going out a little bit and trying to enjoy myself. But yeah, when I first get home, man, it is just veg the fuck out, and that's it.
No, I totally get it, because it's like you're saying, like the last tours, you said 24 shows,
26
shows. Yeah, so it's like you're seeing people every day, and everyone's like, Dave, and you're like, that is my name. It is. And so it's just like it's like it's like if I'm 99% sure it gets so tiring just like talking to people, and then you're always on the road, always setting up, always taking down. So it's like,
yeah, it gets exhausting, man.
Yeah.
It gets mentally draining at times. So when you get home, like all you can think of is just like, oh, my bed, my dogs, and family and whatnot. And you just get home, you relax a little bit, and then go back into the real life.
Yeah. So at any point in like the last tour, and maybe you don't want to disclose, but it's like, did you ever just get like burnt out?
Yeah, there's days I have where I'm pretty off, and I'm mentally burnt out, and I just won't really socialize much. But like every day, like every night, I was at merch pretty much, doing my shift and talking to people. But like there were those nights where I would just kind of stay quiet and not really say much, unless I had to, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because it can be exhausting. You're just doing the same thing every day in a new city, and it does take a toll on you for sure.
Yeah, because it's like, to me, it almost sounds like customer service, but you're also moving so far away from family and everything. It's like you don't have that family to go back to at the end of the night. It's like you have a bad day, and then you're just like sitting in the hotel room or the RV, whatever you guys have, and you're just like sitting there. You're like, I wish I could be home. It's a different. You don't get that same type of relief after your shift is done or whatever work you had to do for the day. So it's just like a wall of emotion when you come home. I'm imagining. You're like, I'm on break. This is nice. I got to go back to real life. But it's like,
absolutely.
Probably when you're like getting geared up for tour, you're like, this is gonna be awesome. I get to go bang on some drums in front of people, and just probably sounds like a great time. when you're like getting amped up for it, but then like halfway through you're like, all right, that's how I imagine
I need
it
to go home and reset. Yeah,
Yeah.
because especially when you start getting into like 3-4 week tours, sometimes like at a point you start to kind of get exhausted. But it's funny, you get exhausted, but you also sometimes get better at playing and getting tighter the further you get into a tour, because you played the songs like 15 times already, and now it's like in the last half of it, the songs are getting a lot tighter. It's not as hard to play them. You're just getting better at it. So it's like, yeah, you're getting exhausted, but you're still playing the songs better. Like the last show, we were stuck in traffic for 2.5 hours. We didn't even think
wow.
we'd make it to the show on time. Cause we were, it was on the way to Salt Lake City, Utah. We were an hour out, and then there was a landslide that like made its way into the highway, and a truck completely was like stuck in the landslide. So we were just literally stuck there for 2.5 hours. So we showed up at the show with like an hour and a half before we played. So we're getting there. Danny's setting up merch. Chris is setting up like the guitar rack unit. I'm setting up my drums, and it's like by the time I was done setting up my drums, I had enough time to change into my stage clothes, play, and then get off and then break down my drums again. So it was kind of nice because we weren't there that long. We were just able to get in and get out essentially. But yeah, then that drive home was brutal. And but we made it pretty quickly, and we were home within like 2.5 days. And I got right home. I showered finally, because we weren't able to shower for like the last 5 days because the drives in between shows were so long, and we had no time to stop for a shower or anything. And so I got home, took the longest shower I'd taken in a month, and then just crashed.
Yeah,
and it was nice.
Yeah, like plugging your phone and hitting your head on the pillow. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I bet it was, dude. But let's do one last question. I like to do a little fun one at the end. We'll do two.
For sure.
But first one, if you could have any show you could go see or be a part of, that'll be for you to decide. Who would you want the lineup to consist of? Multi-genre and Dead or Alive.
Multi-genre and Dead or Alive. I'll be honest, when it comes to the Dead or Alive thing, I can't really think of many bands off the top of my head.
Well, what about Pantera with Dimebag? Well, you can tour or just go see the show.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. I know that like Pantera is like a controversial band nowadays, but like they were like one of the best to ever do it, and I would love to just see. I would love to have seen like one of their last tours, like the Ozfest that they were on.
Yeah.
And because there's this one video online where it's like a mashup of just 4 songs of their set from their last Ozfest ever. And I would watch that video on repeat, because Phil, even though he was drunk out of his fucking mind, still was just like one of the best frontmen of all time. He sucks now, for sure.
Yeah.
But,
as you do with that type of music. Yeah.
Or it's just his personality too. But I mean, like, honestly, just at that time, like, they were just one of the greatest and heaviest bands for sure. So I would definitely see Pantera. But I mean, I guess like dream lineup, if I was to be a part of it, I said on another podcast, it would be us opening, Sleep Token, Viljarda, Meshuggah, and Deftones. That would be my dream lineup to be a part of, or just to even see that show. You know what I mean?
That'd be sick. I like the multi-genre. I mean, Deftones is still, to me, it's metal, but it's a totally different type of metal from Viljarda or Meshuggah, or even you guys.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, but the thing is, what's cool about Deftones is they keep their ear to the ground about stuff like that. Like, years ago when Koino Yokon came out on their album cycle, they brought out Periphery to open with them. They brought out Contortionist. Wow. They were really keeping their ear to the ground with bands like that. Like, their guitar player Steph, he even said, he's like, yeah, man, bands like Veil of Maya, they rock, and like love that band. So He's very in tune, like with a lot of bands in that style of music, which I thought was super sick.
Yeah. No, that's good to have that though. It's like you want people to really like if you're a headliner, you really want to have people that complement your style of music, or just people. To me, it's either you want that, or you want people that you know you're just gonna have the funnest next month doing shows with.
Absolutely, that's how it usually should go, you know.
Yeah,
and they've always been pretty good about having tours like that.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. So if there's one last message you want to put out to the world, what would it be?
See this album? Go fucking buy it or stream it. I don't care.
No, go buy it. Go buy it. Streaming it is if you're only dipping your toes in the water. But no, really, everything about it.
If streaming is your thing, go stream the fucking hell out of it. If you like it that much, buy it. We got vinyl on SharpTone's website. That is pretty much it. And just keeping the loop with Sentinels, and we got cool things to announce sometime soon regarding next year's plans and then end of the year plans. So just keep an ear out for it, and we hope to see you at a show whenever that happens again.
Yeah, one thing I want to do is I'm a broke college kid right now. It's like it sucks, but the last year doing it, last year being broke, it's nice. But I eventually want to get my own place and have like a nice. It's gonna be I don't know, a music room or hobby room, whatever. But this guy I've seen on TikTok he has like vinyl hanging on the wall of all different kinds of bands and stuff. But then he has like Apple AirTags or NFC tags that he can just go up to his phone, scan it. He has speakers in the room. And whenever he scans it with his phone, it just plays it through the speaker. So he's not really using the vinyl, but it's being used as like a, hey, I choose you,
That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Not going to lie. That's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah. But no, dude, I appreciate you being on here, and I'm not going to hold you hostage any longer. Go live your Sunday out. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me, man. It was a pleasure. And, hopefully we can do it again sometime.